You're listening to the Angry Designer Podcast, where we help frustrated graphic designers crush the industry bull and share what it takes to charge what you're worth and build badass, rewarding careers.
There is something I hate more than shitty whiskey.
It's doing it again.
It's wasting.
I was just going to say.
I hate wastage even more.
Yes.
And yes, we had a horrible experience with this Taz Canadian whiskey.
Maybe it's aged better
since last week.
In the week.
I can't give it to anybody at the office.
Yeah,
Nobody
I know.
wanted it.
You offered it to me and I was like, no, I'm not taking that home.
and nobody else wanted it. So I guess we're going to try another go this week. And
yeah.
Hold on. I feel bad here. I got to give myself
Do you have a neighbor that you don't like? You just give that to him.
In case there's
you're going to give him more. Oh, why would you do that?
All right. Let's see if week 2 of
yes,
Taz whiskey, Canadian whiskey in Pinot barrels.
Pinot barrels.
Okay. So this is whiskey that is aged in wine barrels.
Salute.
Oh God, that smell makes me want to puke.
God, it's so sweet.
Oh, God, I don't like this. I may have to bite the bullet and just dump it. I don't know if I could do it after this week. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think this actually is officially the worst whiskey in our whole whiskey journey.
What about that Indian stuff?
No, I love the Indian
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Good.
That first taste was terrible, though.
The first taste tastes like soap, but the rest of it,
then it kind of mellowed
oddly,
down.
it's something they did some voodoo magic. But this is just brutal.
I know. It doesn't get any better. Like you figure the first step is kind of rocky, but
yeah,
it just gets worse.
And it's like, okay, so ready? So how about this as a segue? See?
Okay.
So I mean, again, it looks good on the shelf. The color looks good, and maybe the intent as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the reality is there's nothing good about this. And that is the same as a lot of this stuff that we're going to be talking about today. I mean, figured we'd back this up a little bit. We've had some heavy episodes the past little while.
Yes, that's true.
So, I thought we'd go something a little lighter.
Yes.
And just there's always all these sayings out there that we hear as graphic designers, right? And we always hear this, whether they're influencers who are saying it, whether they're professionals, whether they're in articles, whether they're buzzwords. Everybody keeps hearing the same shit.
Right.
And maybe they mean well, but in oftentimes, they're actually, they're misleading. There's no question, right?
Yes.
They can be harmful depending on what part of the career you're at. And, and this is in big part why we exist is to kind of like, dispel a lot of the bullshit in the industry.
Right.
Okay. And so today,
there's some doozies on this list here too.
And again, so today what we're doing is I kind of, I had this list of like 30, 40 sayings that I've just been inquiring.
Wow.
And a lot of these, we might do as a part 2, because a lot of these are like mantras and they're a lot more, they're deeper and you're supposed to read them. And we're going to end on one of them here. But, these are sayings that we always hear that sound like they're motivational and they sound like, you need to be doing this.
Right.
And really it just like, it often leaves you scratching your head being like, well, okay, what do I do with it? But that's not often the case.
Yeah.
I mean, designers, depending on where you are, will just nod and go with it.
Exactly.
We'll try to interpret it.
Or try to figure it out, or worse yet, figure it out and go the wrong way.
And do the wrong thing.
Yes. Oof, that's the worst.
Honestly.
Yes.
And so that's why we're here to call bullshit on some of these today, right? Because again, it's like there's so much information out there that is only dribbled out to you.
Right.
Okay. And again, I just did a whole episode on pricing just based on this, right? Nobody's giving you the full picture, the context. And again, it could be more harmful than good. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about this. All right.
Yeah. We're going to be guiding today.
And I'm sorry for you guys who are listening to us. If you hear me gagging, it's because I took a sip of this horrible whiskey. Man,
we got to do it like they do a Mad Men and just just jam it back.
I'm sure it's good stuff on Mad Men. This is just
telling you some ice cubes would work.
If I take a gulp, at least all I taste is this barrel of wood.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And it doesn't even taste like the sweetness is the Pinot. Ugh.
Is that what it is?
Oh, for sure it is.
It's gotta be.
The wine, you can really taste that.
Oh, that's what it is.
It's just weird. And I mean, sometimes
Pinot white or is it red?
No, I think Pinot Gris. I mean, it's deep, isn't it? Isn't it like a Merlot? I thought.
Oh, is it? Okay.
No, maybe not quite as high.
But there is a lot of sugar in wine.
Yes, there is.
So, okay.
Yeah, that could explain this.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So, common misleading or harmful sayings that, graphic designers, young and old, hear from everybody online. All right.
All right.
So, number one, you always hear, charge what you're worth. And, in hindsight, it's just like,
I'm worth $1 million,
right? Well, it's kind of misleading because, your worth is really subjective and emotional, but you can't really use that as a pricing model.
Right.
Okay. It's not to say you have to, feel bad about yourself or anything else, but just it's a very high level blanket statement.
Right.
That, doesn't really give you anything concrete to move towards.
Right.
Where, I mean, really, when you look at yourself, when you look at what you should be charging, there's so much to the charging thing, right? But you got to charge based on the value that you deliver. There's so many more valuables other than charging what you're worth.
Exactly. Your experience comes in on that.
Absolutely, it does, right? And again, maybe worth needs to be extrapolated into what it actually is. What do they mean by charge what you're worth? But a lot of people are like, don't undersell yourself. Charge what you're worth.
Yes.
And it's just like, that sounds nice in hindsight. But the thing is, it is so paper thin, right? It's just, I don't know, dude, it's like, you need to, there's so many more factors than just leaving at a high level of just charging what you're worth.
Yes.
And I mean, I feel a little bit guilty because, in our tagline, we say, help graphic designers, charge what they're worth and, get rewarding careers. We do absolutely say that,
right.
In the bigger picture of things. But even that, now that I'm, kind of going through this, I think I have to change because, again, it's just,
But I think the whole point of the podcast is we do explain how to determine what you're worth by your experiences and your,
fair enough,
your abilities and things like that.
Yeah. But your worth is not justification or a model that you can use to price your service.
This is true. Okay. Yeah, there's no chart for that.
Right. Here's the worth chart. All right.
Yes.
Number two. Okay. Here's one that, and this one I love to say. Okay. And I have said it to people, but again, at the same time, it's horrible to say. And I apologize to anybody I did, but just do what you love and money will follow.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I've said this even to my daughter, when it comes to making choices, planning out her future, because she kind of gears it. Oh, I want to do this, but it doesn't make you a lot of money. Right. The reality is passion alone doesn't pay the bills.
That's true.
And that's the absolute truth. If you break down that term, okay, do what you love and money will follow. And that's not necessarily what it means. It doesn't mean that if you end up being a starving artist, that's okay. Somebody at some point in your lifetime is going to discover you as, a starving artist. Or, hey, it's okay if you're a graphic designer in a really shitty niche. As long as it's a, nonprofit. Graphic designers who work in nonprofit industries often fall victim of this. They do this for the right reasons.
Yes.
But after 20 years, they're still not making any money.
Yes.
And there's a reason for it, right? You have to you can do what you love. Okay. But the reality is you have to also use your judgment and align your services, your skills, your industry, align everything, in order to actually get paid.
Yeah.
So it's a little paper thin. And when I would tell my daughter this, right, it kind of fell in line with even what we did here, right? I loved graphic design. And at the beginning, I had no idea how to make money out of this space. Okay. But I loved it enough that I was willing to go the distance and over time would figure out how to actually make money out of it.
There you go.
And that's the long-term plan.
Right.
But nobody ever says that.
Right.
Nobody says do what you love and money will follow because you're going to find a way on how to actually make money and still do it. You never hear that part, right? So it always sounds very romantic.
It does, yes.
Right? But the reality is don't fool yourself.
Yeah.
You still have to make yourself a plan. You still have to get there.
That's it.
And find it.
But that passion helps that along.
The passion allows you to enjoy that journey.
You love what you do.
Yeah.
You love it so much that you're willing to figure out a way to transverse that business aspect of it, or whatever it is that you need to push that so you can actually make a living off of what you do.
Because again, just
or what you love.
You somewhere along the way, I had to figure out how to start paying for things that I wanted.
Exactly.
Okay. And just doing graphic design at a discount wasn't enough.
Wasn't cutting it.
So I figured out how to do what I love and still make a living out of it.
Exactly.
That goes for artists. That goes for designers of all sorts. That goes for almost anybody who follows some sort of passion-led career. Okay.
Yep.
So it's not a matter of, do it blindly and then money will magically fall from the sky for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, if you genuinely love what you do, then, you keep doing it, and sooner or later you'll figure out a way to monetize it into a place where then you will have both, you'll be successful personally and professionally.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think.
I love it. Jeez,
okay.
You're making short work of that shit.
Yeah, right. Well, I figured if I drink it enough, if I have a second glass fast enough, then maybe.
Then it might be fine.
All right. Number 3. Okay. Everybody's heard this one.
Mm-hmm.
The client is always right. Okay. And I mean, on so many levels, we know that this is a misleading statement.
Yes.
Okay. Because the client often lacks the design knowledge they're coming to you for. And so because of that, they're going to make poor creative decisions. Okay. So although they are right in what they want, okay, it's up to you to find their problems, not just deliver the solution they're asking to.
Right. Yeah.
We talked about the bridge
idea.
The
bridge. I was just thinking that.
Keep going back to the bridge concept. But the reality is, they're coming to you for a reason. So they're right. Sure. And, they're paying the bill. Sure. But they're coming to you for a reason, given that it is the right client.
Right.
Okay. So the reality is they're right halfway, but they're right in hiring you to find the right problem.
Yes.
Not just be a yes man and or yes woman and give them their solution. That's not what this is about.
No, you could totally build that bridge if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
but that's you're not doing your client or yourself any favors.
Guess what?
By doing that.
Right?
Yeah.
My strength is helping you find a better way to do this.
Yes.
You told me what the problem is.
Yeah.
Here's a different way of approaching your problem with a better solution. Would you like to go with it?
That's right.
And in that case, the client is not going to balk at that, right?
No, not at all.
So again, this is where you have to position yourself, of course, as the expert, but just know that the client is, in fact, not always right.
That's right. Exactly.
All right.
Nice.
A lot of people online always tell graphic designers they need to niche immediately.
Oh, right away?
Niche fast.
Shit.
So this is misleading because, again,
big time.
I am a huge fan of niching. I will tell every graphic designer, you have to niche.
Yeah.
But you have to niche when the time is right.
When you're ready for it. How long did it take you?
Right? Again, we didn't niche. Okay, truth be told, we niched initially. Okay. And we didn't realize it, right? We didn't realize the benefit of it.
Okay.
Then we became a generalist agency. Okay. And everything started falling apart. Everything was difficult. There was a lot of struggles. And then it was like, shit, you know what? We got to go back to a niche.
Right.
When we did, it was just so apparent the difference between being generalists and being a niche agency.
Right.
We're still a full service agency.
Full service.
So we're still generalists in the sense of we can do everything from trade show work to web to brand strategy, but we are in a niche strategy or niche industry, right? So premature niching can limit your growth. It could actually be catastrophic, okay, to your career, to your reputation, because you have to make sure that you've got all your ducks in order before you do anything like this. You need to explore all the industries that, if you're going to niche from an industry perspective, right? The industries that you can excel at and why you can excel. You don't want to just commit to an industry because it's lucrative and be miserable every day, right?
Exactly.
There's so many levels. So I 100% support niching, but you have to first make sure that you understand the industry, being a designer, what it entails. Make sure you got all, you can get everything you need to get done, right?
Yeah.
And then you can start, find the areas that excite you that you then can niche in. And then when you're ready to do that, you will excel. Exactly.
Yes, through the roof with
through the roof, right?
Yeah, exactly. So some people can kind of take a little bit of time to get to the niche that they want, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I tell everybody the same thing, right? Niching is it's not a way in.
Yeah,
it's like a direction. It's a goal. It's your next what to work towards.
Right. It's kind of along the path that you're going.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So again, yes, niche, but you don't have to niche immediately.
Right away.
Okay.
Yes.
So number 5, good design sells itself. Oh, this is such a load of shit. Okay. Nobody buys what they don't understand. And again, it's like, good design doesn't sell itself. Okay. Good design has to be pushed. It has to have the right strategy behind it. It has to have the right messaging to it. Right.
Right.
There's so many more parts to it than just the design itself.
Yeah.
And this is why this is a really paper thin statement that kind of drives me nuts, to be honest, when people hear it, because there's such an elitist attitude about creating something that looks like it's a beautiful design.
This is
great.
Perfect. Yes.
But if it doesn't have all the other factors in place, if it doesn't have the right call to actions in place, if it hasn't solved the problem what the customer wants, it's just it's flat. It's fake. It's all pretty and no substance to it.
Exactly. Yes, it has to work.
Absolutely. You have to educate everybody. You've got to position, your client properly, and then you got to pitch that, to the customer in the end, right? These are really important factors that the design has to have in place. But something can look fantastic, but can be completely worthless. Pointless. Useless. That's the better word.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. This one, we say a lot, and, we should catch ourselves in this one, or at least explain, okay? But you will often hear people say, you have to pay your dues, okay? And again, generally, we say it in a bigger statement. We back it up. We make sure we, explain this out and pull this out. But, people often, use this whole, use this term, this phrase, to justify their inexperience or the fact that they can undercharge. Okay. And they have to kind of slug it out, and they almost use it as an excuse to be overworked and to be treated like shit, right? In an environment. And that's not what you have to pay your dues is about.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you have to work under a toxic boss or a creative director who steals your ideas, right? Or get paid, pennies on the hour, every hour, basically be working for free, that's not what paying your dues means, right? You don't earn any value by suffering and hating what it is you do.
Yes.
Okay. Unless, of course, you have completely, the wrong impression of what the space is that you get. Don't expect to all of a sudden become a creative director with only a year experience.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you need to know where you have to suck it up.
Yeah.
Okay. But you also need to know where the line is and where to draw it.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this isn't about it's okay to be abused. This isn't about it's okay to be overworked and be driven to burnout and learn to hate the industry. That's not what this is about.
That's right.
This is about, there will be long hours. There will be boring jobs that you're going to have to go through. You are going to have to learn a lot of really boring pre-press stuff or just, digital baseline stuff. There's going to be a lot of boring production work that you're probably going to have to do.
Yep.
But you don't have to do it underneath some sort of slave organization where they're over top of you and making you stay late and work for pennies. And so this is where you need to know, at what point is this expected and where that line is that, you don't want anything to cross. That's
exactly.
a horrible way to finish that off.
That is terrible. Yeah. And you don't want to be that guy that's been sitting at a place for 20 years going, well, what have I done with my life?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Get out there and experience other things. That's what paying your dues is. If you got a job jump, then you have to do that, right?
Right.
Sometimes
that's
exactly what you need to do. You have to experience other things. That's
exactly what the other. Yep.
Yes, that's your path. Yeah. That's good. That is paying your dues is. I see what you're saying with that. We do say that a lot, and it is a kind of a,
Well, we say it when people complain,
right,
about the facts of the industry that are legit. And let's face it, we all work a lot of hours.
Yes.
Okay. And again, it comes with the space.
Yep.
We've all had, clients that are ridiculous. That comes with the space.
Right.
Okay. But things we don't have to tolerate is toxic environments. Exactly. That's wrong.
Right.
Okay. And you don't want to have to accept that. Yeah. Or, or horrible management, okay, that abuses, you or takes advantage of you, so this is where it's like that actually does not fall into the pay your due category. That's where, you start being taken advantage of, and as soon as it becomes a little bit more toxic than it should, because again, sometimes, you hear or you overhear toxic, okay, but again, just because you don't agree with it doesn't necessarily mean it's toxic.
True. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In all fairness.
Yeah.
But that's where you have to know where to draw the line.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
All right, designers, let's cut the bull. How many times have you had a killer website design only to watch it fall apart because of code or developer telling you no? Or maybe you've held back from web design altogether thinking it's just too complicated and too technical or totally out of your wheelhouse. Either way, it's time for a change. Wix Studio is designed for designers, removing the barriers that limits your designs. Whether you're tired of developers watering down your ideas or too intimidated by the technical side of web, Wix Studio puts the creative power back in your hands. No code required. With a drag and drop interface that feels designer intuitive, plus no code animations and even AI powered tools, you can create fully custom websites that match your vision. Every pixel, every detail. And if you're worried about the learning curve, don't be. Wix Studio is designed to feel as intuitive as your favorite design tools. Some designers here even say more so. That means you can jump right in and focus on what you do best, designing badass, brand-aligned websites that'll take your business to the next level. So whether you've had enough of developers holding you back or you're ready to finally step into web design, check out wixstudio.com and take control. That's wixstudio.com. Go and take back web design for graphic designers.
Okay, number 7.
Okay.
Graphic designers need a degree to be legit.
I'm thinking of that phone call we had in the back of the Uber with the woman and the kid who was their son was already working.
He's already got a full-time customer.
You're going to pull him out of school and you're going to make him or pull him out of his job and make him go to school.
No.
Hell no.
This
Hell
is
no.
a real elitism
big time
mentality.
Big time.
That you need to be, you need to go to school. You need to have a degree in order to be, considered a graphic designer, a successful graphic designer. In all fairness, right now, I don't think school's keeping up with the pace of the industry. And it's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
They're not teaching how to handle AI right now. They're not teaching how to, handle even just the pace of social media right now.
Yeah.
They're still often teaching design principles and a lot of the shit. They're not even teaching how to properly pitch your portfolio.
Which we learned a couple of weeks ago.
So again, this is a horrible thing to believe. Results, consistency, creative problem solving. This is shit that means more than credentials. Okay. And that's why it's like people need to, shake their head when they hear statements like this. It's not that I'm not saying education is bad. You can take online courses on the principles of design. You can understand the foundations, you can understand, but there's so many holes that are missing, and true design education comes after post-secondary education.
Yeah.
And that's only an option if you ask me. Okay. There's so many designers that completely skip that. They're passion-led.
Yep.
They learn because they want to, and they are equally successful, if not more, because of their genuine curiosity, and what they feel towards design in the industry. Not because the prof told them they can do it, good job, and you've got a B+.
Yeah, and the thing with that, like, you can learn so much online nowadays.
Oh my God.
Like, it's ridiculous. Anything way more than what your professor is going to teach you.
Yes. Absolutely.
At a fraction of the price,
At a fraction of the price. God knows you're going to save a ton on that one.
Yes, you are.
All right. So that's number 7.
Nice.
Number 8. Okay. Always give 3 logo options. Or always only present 1 logo option.
Wait, what do I do?
You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah,
you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So again, this is something that you guys have to kind of use critical thinking for. You are going to have different opinions out there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are saying only pitch 1 concept, only do 1 concept. Alan Peters pitches
to the greats,
wow.
to the goats. Yes. Okay. He pitches 12. And what does James
Bernard pitches 1?
1.
Okay. And again, it was great conversation we had with both of them.
Both amazing approaches. And yeah. So
right?
Who's right and who's wrong?
The number of concepts really doesn't matter. It's the process you use to get to that point and the conviction and the reasoning you have when you're presenting that to the customer. So there is no right or wrong method to go about this. Okay. There's just a different way to go about this. And I learned that. I used to think that James was crazy. I did until we spoke with him.
I know.
And I was like, okay, I totally get where you're coming from with your single concept. And I agree with it for him. Okay. And then about a minute later, I heard Alan's reasoning for his concept. I can't argue with that.
No.
We personally have a completely different concept than both of theirs together. And again, to say somebody's right or wrong is ridiculous.
Is dumb.
Okay. It's just their process works for them. And it works. It works if you can replicate it time and time and time again. So don't get hung up on an easy answer on, we can only do 1. Strive for only 1 or strive for 12 or strive to make it an iterative process, right? No. Make sure, the process you have supports your process, right? Or sorry, the pitch you decide to do supports your process.
Right.
Okay. And you can do it confidently with conviction and speak out, and you can do it over and over and over again.
Right.
And if it works for you, that's the real answer.
And and back up what you're doing too.
Right.
If you could back up the story and why you did what you did,
boom.
Yeah.
Go.
This is good.
Right.
I just did this because it looks cool.
Because it looks good.
Forget it.
Yeah,
no client is going
right?
to.
Nobody wants to hear your personal opinion. Okay.
Exactly.
In all fairness. All right.
Number
9.
Yeah.
Never say no to work.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? So I grew up in a very hardcore Italian family, right? My father was the hardest fucking worker I've ever met in my life. And only second to my mom, who's the second hardest worker. And probably more considering she had to raise three boys, okay? But
that's right.
Where I'm going with this is, it's an old mentality that you can't say no to work. But the reality is, if you just work for the sake of working, okay, and it's not profitable, okay, overwork leads to burnout. If you're not making money on this, okay, then you should be working on your own stuff, not customer work that doesn't actually lead to anything, okay? Because there is a long-term goal, okay? You need to say yes to aligned work, okay? And what I mean by this is if it aligns with, who you are as a company, your beliefs, your profit model, they're willing to pay yours, then you're crazy to say no to it. Okay. Then you're absolutely fucking crazy, even if you're busy. Okay. But if somebody wants something at a discount, if somebody wants, something, at half the time of your normal rate, if somebody wants to come in and create chaos in your environment, that's the work you got to say no to. Okay. So again, we just have to be clear with this statement, right? You should say yes to all the ideal work that's coming down the door. But there's definitely a place to say no to anything that disrupts what you've got going that's really good.
Exactly. Yes, this is true. Yeah. You could really fuck yourself up by doing that. With like being stressed on top of having too many projects on the go.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like if they were flowing good and the clients are great, maybe juggling 2 or 3 projects might not be so bad. But if you got 3 nightmares,
you can't go down this road.
You can't. You cannot
Absolutely
do this.
Not.
This is not good.
All right. Number 10. Okay. Always make the client happy.
Interesting.
It's a scary statement, right?
I would like to hear the reasoning behind it.
Well, again, pleasing clients is actually different than solving clients' problems. And there is a differentiator that people need to understand, okay? What you need to do is you need to focus on the deliverable, okay? On the problem you're trying to solve, how you're trying to improve. You need to focus on that, not focus on their approval.
Right.
And I think that's the misleading part about this, okay? Like making a client happy there's been clients that we've made happy even though there's been personality conflict, okay? Maybe they haven't liked, certain ways of the process, or maybe even certain people that they're working with. The reality is they were happy with the final result, and that should be the goal.
Yeah.
And that's how you make the client happy.
Yeah, there you go. Did it work?
And absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So again, yes, always make the client happy, but this isn't about trying to win over their approval.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
This is make sure what you're delivering is always delivering the right result to the customer.
Right. And not being a yes person too, right? Like you're not just say, sure thing, boss, whatever you asked for. You're not doing them any favors either.
Dude, we just found out some news today about a client that necessarily didn't like me. Okay. And at first I tried to get their approval. I tried to win over that person, and it was killing me because I just couldn't get them to like me. Absolutely. I mean, there's one in the world, of course. But it's true. This guy, I couldn't get him to like me. And instead, I changed my attention to servicing the hell out of the company.
Right.
And that company stuck with us, again, it's been 10 years, okay? Yeah. And again, it's because I ended up focusing on the right outcome, not necessarily the approval of the person.
Right.
Okay. So I focus on the client, not the person.
Yeah. There you go. Oh, that's good.
That's kind of crazy, right? All right.
I love it.
Here's one that everybody's heard.
Okay.
Fake it until you make it.
Ooh, dangerous.
This is a touchy one.
Yeah.
Everybody has heard this, and this is a really scary statement because, again, what people don't get, this is often confused with lying. Faking it, okay? Overselling, pretending you have skills that you actually don't have. That's not really what this statement is about, but nobody ever backs that up. They throw it out there like fake it till you make it, baby. That's, the fake it till you make it statement, okay, is about the confidence that you have, okay? Pretend that, you are the biggest guy in that room. Pretend that I don't want to get too nasty, but there's a lot of really big, gross analogies, okay, that, that can work here, okay? But the reality is you want to fake the confidence you have in what you can do, not necessarily the craft.
Right.
Okay. Not necessarily the hands-on doing portion. Okay. That, if you say you can do a job, you better be able to fucking do that job.
Exactly.
Because the quickest way to kill your career is to have people realize that, holy shit, he says he can do it and he dropped the ball on it. Well, really? He said he could do it to me too and he dropped it. All of a sudden,
done.
Career kill.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you're like, I'm not sure if I can do it, but I'm not going to let the customer know. I'm going to tell them I can fucking do it. You put in extra hours behind the curtain. You spend an extra night or the weekend getting over this and prove you can. That's what this is about.
Exactly.
So faking it until you actually can get to that point of doing it. And then all of a sudden you're not faking it.
Yeah.
You've arrived. You're legit at this point.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. So this statement is more about, faking that you can do it until you actually figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And then once you figure out how to do it, you're faster, you're growing, you're quicker, but you're not losing work in the meat.
Exactly. It's just another tool in your belt.
Right. And that's kind of where a whole idea about, tell customers, hey, it's Friday. I don't know how to do it, but by Monday, sure as hell no, I'm going to figure out how to do it.
Exactly. And you have to be that kind of person too, I think. If you're not that kind of person who is not interested in learning new shit, then this might not be the business for you to be in. Because how much change have we experienced in our careers here, even in the last 5 years? But
changes so fast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a great explanation of that.
Yeah. And that's what people need to realize. This isn't about cheating.
Nope.
This isn't about lying about, like what you can do. It's more of hiding behind, hiding your insecurities on what you're capable of doing until you can prove it to yourself that you can actually replicate that over and over and over.
Exactly. It's confidence in yourself. Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
Ready? I hate this one. Clients want award-winning designers. or anything to do with fucking award-winning anything in our space, okay?
Right.
Again, this is so misleading because people feel that, or there's this illusion that if you have an award behind you, it kind of shows some sort of success, that you are able to deliver for the customer. But the reality is a lot of these awards, okay, aren't for client work, okay? They're when people create things, for awards. And we know that there's this whole toxic, dark, gray world where people basically fake shit just to win awards, okay? They're not serving the customer properly. They're serving their agency or their egos. They're doing this for their own reasons to win awards. Yeah. That, like some sort of ego drive or something.
Exactly. And 9 times out of 10, or I think 10 times out of 10, you're paying to get into these contests too, right?
I think almost every time you're paying for these.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's not a good barometer of
not at
what.
All.
Yeah.
Clients want results.
Right.
Okay? They don't care about trophies or accolades from your fucking peers of all people.
Oh, yeah, just your peers. Exactly.
Right? Because honestly, most of these design awards aren't even from industry leaders. They're from your peers. Industry. Oh, this designer from this agency decided to give me an award. He was one of the 5 designers on the panel judging all of our work. Like, get me a rewards, get me a contest or something or an award able for getting your customer the most lead.
Yeah.
Okay? Or, and I think, Salesforce and
do they do something like that? Okay.
I believe that a lot of, there's awards on that level.
Yeah.
But they're not graphic design.
But they're not graphic design stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
So again, because those are, anyway, this is a really shitty thing to, it's a really shady world. I hate this world.
Unless it's a Nobel Peace Prize, don't even bother.
Yeah. And even that sometimes is a little questionable, in all fairness.
There you go.
All right. People often hear, price yourself competitively.
Oh.
I hate this.
So you go to Fiverr and then you...
Right? Like, pricing yourself competitively against your peers is the quickest way to race to the bottom.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
Fiverr exists, for fuck's sake.
Yes.
Seriously. Like, again, you're not fucking Walmart. This isn't the kind of service, a commodity type service that you're trying to compete with your people on price, because that is the last thing. Yeah. That is the last barometer you should be, rating your skills on for anything. Don't compete against everybody else. Set your worth based on your experience, based on, the outcome, based on, what you're able to provide. That's where you want to price yourself. Don't worry about, pricing against competition. Yeah. That is one of the reasons why we niched, because by niching, we now took ourselves completely out of that competitor market. And even if somebody was like, well, this agency does this for half the price, I'm like, yeah, but they're not fucking niche experts.
Exactly.
They don't know the industry like we know the industry. So go pay. If you want price, go to them. Yeah. You want results, stick with us and pay up.
Exactly.
Okay, because you're paying for something else. But this is not, I can't handle that, right? You don't worry about, you're not here to, to be the most cost-effective solution for a customer, because that's not what we do as designers, okay? We want to deliver results. We want to deliver impact for the customer. And when you start taking that mentality, you price yourself accordingly for yourself.
Yep.
Okay. Don't worry about the competition.
Exactly. Yeah. You may have to refuse a few jobs that, they want to,
if they're not going to pay your rate.
If they're not going to pay you, then you have to kind of take your dignity and say, no, I'm worth more than what this is. Give it to somebody else and walk away from it.
Walk away from it.
Yeah.
Or
and
if
like
you really
said,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and like you said, work on your own projects. Yeah, this is this is more beneficial to you in the long term than working for some piece of shit and getting $20 an hour.
Dude, that's horrible, right? That's horrible. And that $20 an hour works out to about $10 an hour, because if they pay that little for you, then they're going to nickel and dime you for everything you do. And you might not even get your second deposit or your final payment.
Yes. Yeah.
Piece of shits.
There you go.
All right. In line with pricing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Oftentimes you hear you should charge hourly. Or you should charge value-based, or you should be charging by the... People throw out all these blanket statements on how you should be charging.
Right.
Okay. And this is completely misleading because, I mean, this blanket advice doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody, in my opinion. Okay. Pricing is not black and white. There is not a one solution. Okay. One thing, we did an episode, about a month and a half ago about pricing is a process.
Yeah.
It's a journey. Okay. You can't start in this industry and decide that you're pricing based on value because to be pricing based on value, okay, you have to be somebody, you have to have experience, you have to have, history on the accomplishments you've had to put out there. Okay. You have to start hourly, like it or not.
Yep.
I don't care what anybody says.
Yep.
You can't start this industry any other way.
That's right.
You have to. Now, how do you get to hourly? Okay, go watch that episode. But I mean, if you want, you have to start hourly.
Yeah.
Then from hourly, you can graduate into project based. Okay, and I appreciate project based because man, I don't like to track hours. Sorry, Sean. Sorry, buddy. And then if you ever want to get. I say that because unfortunately he still has to track his hours. Oh,
jeez.
Sorry, guys. Shh, don't tell the rest of my team. But, I mean, again, you have to start hourly. You graduate from hourly to project-based. Yeah. And then once you've got enough experience, once you've got enough, case studies and your brand is big enough, then you can charge value-based. No, value.
Oh, value-based. Right? Okay, sorry.
There's just a payment method.
Oh, okay.
Right? That's the step. You have to follow that step. Okay. So when somebody's, you see a bold statement that's like charge value based, it's just like bullshit. You're just a blanket statement. It's like, to catch my attention, hook me in, bring me in.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So that's clickbait if I've ever seen it.
Yeah. Clickbait. Always that clickbait. All right.
Yes.
It's not about you. It's about the client.
Oh,
okay. And again, this kind of removes your point of view from the equation. Okay. Which I'm not completely against. Okay. But the problem is your perspective, your taste. Okay. The way you do things is part of your brand.
Yes.
Okay. So this agency, we have a very bold, in your face look. Okay. We don't, our work isn't elegant. We don't use thin fonts.
It's not for everybody.
And it's not for everybody. Yeah. And we're in a niche space, even more so. Okay. Yeah. And people choose our personal preference, our taste. Okay. I get the whole, you have to design for the client, but you have to remember your personal brand, what you've developed, your look, your feel is a very big part of why the client chose you.
That's right.
And you have to remember the importance of that. Okay. Yep. So again, maybe this is you have to back up a little bit more and realize you have to build a brand to get to that point. Yeah. But again, people don't go to LinkedIn to create something that looks like it's oil of Olay. Right? Like, and again, you're going to LinkedIn and you
know what you're going to get. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So again, it's not necessarily that it's not, or it's all about you. Okay. But the reality is the customer came to you for a reason. And if it is because of your brand, your personality, your flair, and what you put towards the project, well, then you do have to actually put that in there.
Yeah.
The end result is always about, the customer's final results and what we're building for them, but just don't underestimate that, the importance of you and your personality and your brand into their project.
Yeah. I love that story about your website. It was all fucking cool, tricked out. And this guy came up and said, man, I went on your website and I thought, these guys are edgy. I like it. I'm going with that.
If anybody can make my business look sexy, it'll be you guys.
You guys. Exactly.
They had like a dry ice company. And our website was all like rocker girls and flames and big rigs.
But that's that says I'm here and I'm big and I'm bold and this is what I will do for you. This kind of
stuff.
And
they weren't expecting something light.
Exactly.
And thin,
so they kind of know their place. But
they knew what they were going to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. Here's one that you hear a lot. Okay. And this was very controversial, but say no to spec work.
Oh,
right? This one is, there's always all these people that stand up, no spec work, don't do anything for free, okay? And they treat it like it's the gospel. You hold it up and you're preaching it. Designers, no spec work.
John 3:16, no spec work.
Ooh, at 316. The reality is, though, this stops designers from getting relationships. Okay, it stops from earning trust from certain companies. Okay, because oftentimes you need to, depending on where you are in your journey. Okay, spec work can actually open up a lot of doors. Okay, it really can. Unfortunately, you need to understand the context, right, of what they're asking for. And you need to realize, is this legit or am I just being exploited? Okay. Are they looking for free ideas?
Right.
And this is the key. And this takes a little while to do. Okay. We have customers on retainer ask for spec work all the time. Okay. Kind of blessed because it's on retainer. And while it might not be the full price of a project, at least our time is covered. Okay.
Right.
There's been other opportunities that have come to us. And it's like, I need to see an idea or two, or I need to know where your thinking is, okay? How far you want to take that is up to you. But the reality is, by just automatically saying no to spec work, depending on where you are in your career, this could really close a lot of doors for you.
Right.
Okay? And I mean, they're not all exploiting you.
I was just going to say, there's got to be some clients out there that are legit,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, good.
Now,
That makes me happy.
if you are one of 10 agencies who are pitching, you're being exploited. But
really?
if you've had a cut list and there's now down to 3, from this list, and they like legit. this, and now they just want to see your take or this or that, right?
Right.
You can't be scared to always put, something out there. And again, you have to judge if it's the right time for you and if it's the right opportunity for you.
Right.
And again, if it's spec work that you can at the very least use as a case study, use in your portfolio, use to, pitch forward, okay, fine.
Yep.
Do it up.
Yeah.
If it costs you money, if it takes weeks out of your life, and it actually is legitimate stuff that somebody can take and walk away with and take to their own, then you got to wonder if you're being exploited.
Okay.
But again, by blindly saying no to spec work is it's misleading, and it can prevent you, a lot of opportunities in the future. It can prevent, it could really stunt your career. Right from the start, you want to start making a name for yourself, and you just refuse to do anything just to kind of get in the door.
Yeah.
We had to do a lot of spec work when we started. And, sometimes it felt like it was all for nothing. But it did open up a ton of doors.
Yeah.
In the past 10 years, we've done 0 spec work. We turn it away.
Okay.
We don't need it. We don't want it. And we don't want to be judged or be chosen based on what we want to be chosen based on what we brought to the table all these years and who we are now.
Yes.
Not, hey, let us prove ourselves.
Exactly.
So again, this kind of goes with the paying your dues from before, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of,
Yeah. Interesting.
So there's say no to spec work.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. This one triggers me. This trigger me. And I hate saying that word trigger. I had fun with my kids about the word trigger because it's such a wussy word to use now. But this one really does trigger me. Let me tell you. Join professional design organizations like RGD, AIGA, GDC. Dude,
that's legit. This guy,
fuck. So the reason why this is misleading is they make you think that by joining this organization, by having this credential on your business card, is going to advance your career, is going to open up new doors, is going to change your world. The reality is, it is such a load of bullshit on so many levels. I mean, they offer community.
Yeah.
So does everywhere else online for free.
Exactly.
Yeah, they offer resources.
Right.
Fuck. YouTube is the biggest resource online, let alone every other social media outlet on how the hell to do what we need to do, right? They're not proof. They're not a guaranteed anything, in my opinion, on how to get work, how to improve. Okay. And yeah, while they are networking opportunity, you're networking with other designers.
Yeah.
You're not networking for new clients.
Clients. Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
And if in any way you think that in future employers or, prospective clients will be like, oh, well, he's an RGD, graphic designer, he must be good.
Yeah.
Because again, they often see through this bullshit if they
That's
even know
right.
what the hell an RGD is.
Yeah.
This is just one thing to try to make, a certain group of elitists elevate themselves above everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's disheartening to believe that this shit actually exists.
I know. And it's a fucking cash grab. We talked to our buddy in Austin, and he was like, I don't know, should I do this? And it was like a strange, stupid amount of money.
Stupid amount of money for somebody who was very new.
Yeah.
And even he agreed that the resources they provide was
not worth it.
outdated.
Yeah,
they were basic. They were just kind of like really rudimentary compared to the rest of the industry.
And if you're going to pay $1,500 or whatever the hell it was
a year as a student,
like,
that's absolute brainwash. It's brainwash.
Yes.
And again, it goes back to trying to put you into pens and trying to form you into their way of thinking, their way of designing.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. So again, whether that's my personal opinion or whether that's just all misleading about join an organization like this and you'll get the results, it'll propel you in your career. It's very misleading. So know what I'm not saying don't, but do it for the right reason.
Yes. Research it. Look into it if that's the case. And this is something that is not a necessity.
Absolutely.
It's not going to help you or
change anything in your
Exactly.
space.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
All right. Two more.
Okay.
Okay. This one you hear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're good, you don't need to market yourself. Oh.
Yeah, that's why Alan Peters is never on Instagram.
Right. Absolutely. He's just that bad.
Yeah, he doesn't need to.
He's just throwing up. The reality, we've all known designers that are less creative, less I don't even know how just not as good as we are, yet they're busy. They've got clients. Okay. And it's just like, well, what the hell? I'm 10 times better than that dude. Why is he getting all the work?
Yeah.
And the reality is being good just isn't enough.
It's not.
You have to show up. You got to speak up. You've got to network. You've got to put yourself out there on a regular basis. And being very creative or being a talented designer, honestly, is not and never has been enough in this space. And I think everybody needs to realize that.
Yeah,
you need to shake their head and realize that no, you've actually got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You got to work that shit on a regular basis. So these are misleading statements, that I don't know who believes this one. Okay. Maybe the people who aren't good enough and they're insecure about this and they're constantly playing this game with themselves to convince them they're better.
They're not making any money, that's for sure.
Yeah, no. Because they got all this free time.
Someday all the money will come into me with my awesome work.
Yeah. And it's still working for that work.
Yeah, you gotta put it out there. You've got to put it out there.
You've got to be out there and you got to be
exactly.
active.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. And last but not least.
Woohoo!
Okay, ready?
Okay.
I hate these statements. Okay.
Oh, this is a good one.
Design is insert buzzword here. Okay, seriously. Design is storytelling.
Design is life.
Design is communication. And people are like, oh, yes.
Bravo. Yeah.
This is so misleading because these are these fancy poetic one-liners that are put out there that try to oversimplify what it is that we do for a living. And they sound cool, but the reality is they just confuse the fuck out of everybody who hears them.
Yes.
Right? Design is storytelling. Yes. These design can be storytelling.
Yes, it's a part of it.
Can be communication.
It's a part of it as well.
It can be empathy. This we know, okay? But I mean, I get that it's not limited to any one of these specific traits.
Right.
Design is about solving a customer's problem to make, with intent, okay, on purpose, okay, to make the end user's life better.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, storytelling is part of that. Communication is part of that.
Empathy is a great thing for that too.
It's a great thing for this. Okay. But it's not one. So if somebody's only giving you one definition and it's vague and it sounds good, but it kind of means nothing. The reality is they're selling something other than design. Okay.
Yeah. Beware of people that use that kind of.
Yeah, I know, right? It drives me nuts in that sense. So this is just an initial list.
Yes.
Okay? There was so many more of these I found. There were so many of these I cut out because I didn't want to keep you guys on here forever. But the reality is, okay, we need to embrace critical thinking. Okay. And as a designer, critical thinking is the most important trait I think that we have, that we can use.
Yep.
Okay. It's the most important tool in our belt because it not only helps us use the tools, okay, to define the tools that we use, but the path that we're going to take when we're trying to solve customers' problems, the information that we're bringing in and it helps every single part of our space.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So don't take anything that you see online as verbatim.
Yeah.
Okay. Research it, figure it out for yourself, see both sides to this, and then come to your own conclusion.
There you go.
Because I think that is the most important trait every designer needs to have. Not should have.
Yeah.
Needs to have.
That's right. Yeah. You can hear people say sprouting this theory or whatever, but expand on that. You don't necessarily, this person, whatever they say is not the gospel, right? There are other schools of thoughts and yours might be somewhere in the middle there.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes.
And that's okay. But the one thing is, if you embrace critical thinking to get to your idea, your way of thinking, it's yours.
Yes.
And you have both sides that you can discuss and defend. You're not just a parrot, parroting
something else,
another statement that somebody else says. And
exactly.
You can't defend it.
That's right. Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, I like that.
Sorry, guys. This was longer than originally thought. Shit. But
these old guys do ramble on.
They ramble on. And this horrible whiskey.
Oh, you had 2 glasses, man.
And just so you guys know, the second glass is equally as bad.
It's
as
just as bad. It's worse.
Oh.
That's why I stopped at 1.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to waste anybody else's time. This is a long episode.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. My name is Massimo.
My name is Sean.
Stay creative.
Let's stay angry.